Okay, so today we are going to start the respiratory system. Okay, so do you all have any idea about the respiratory system, the structure and the function? Like you all would have studied this in grade 11 as well, no? So you might have an idea, I guess. So before that, how is Unit 5 for everyone? You all would have done like maybe digestive system, circulatory system and all, no? So how is Unit 5? Hard, easy, manageable? How is it? Manageable. For others, no words. Okay, so let's somehow make this unit 5. Like unit 5 is the most easiest one to be honest because it's all it's exactly about the concept. Nothing was there to memorize. Like if you understand the concept, yeah, you can like ace this part. So let's go into the respiratory system. Okay, so now we are going to see at the beginning why we require respiratory system. Okay. So in the environment, we have to, what is the gas, like humans, animals, and all the organisms except plants are inspiring. Like what is the gas we use to intake? Very good. It's the oxygen. So if we are a human, we are absorbing oxygen. And what's the gas we are releasing? I want you all to answer as well, okay? Very good. It's the carbon dioxide. Okay, it's the carbon dioxide which we usually release. So oxygen is the gas which we inhale and the carbon dioxide is the gas which we exhale. So what happens is there are like different animals no in the environment we have different types of animals. So some animals can be simple animals and some animals can be what? Complex animals. Okay, there are both simple and complex animals. So for simple animals, we can take microorganisms. And also in unit 3, you all would have studied about cnidarians. And you all remember the cnidarians. So yeah, these cnidarians. And also there is something called flatworms. What is the term? What is the phylum of the flatworms? Flatworms, what is the phylum of flatworms? Nice. They are platyhelminthes. So what happens is these animals are very simple, right? So these animals, like especially flatworms and all, they have a structure like this, no? These flatworms. So these flatworms, these have like very simple cellular structure. The cells are having very simple structure. So these structures and their simple body form is allowing them to exchange the substances with the environment through diffusion. Okay, because all the cells are having direct contact with the environment. Because they are simple, no, their body surface area is very small, they are small in structure and stuff, no. Therefore, these body cells are in direct contact with the external environment. All the body cells are in direct contact with the external environment, especially in which cnidarians and flatworms, because you all have to be very thorough with the terms they use in resource book. So the examples as well. So cnidarians and the flatworms are given as what? Given as the simple animals. So these simple animals are having their cells which are in direct contact with the external environment. So all the oxygens are coming into their body through diffusion, and carbon dioxide is moving out of their body by diffusion as well. Can you all remember what's diffusion? Give me the definition of diffusion. Anyone? Unit 4 maybe. Yeah. In unit 4 there is the definition for unit diffusion. What's the definition of unit diffusion? What's diffusion? Diffusion is what? Very good. Very good. Movement of substances from, yeah, it's a type of gaseous exchange, like, can be gaseous exchange as well. So movement of substance from high concentration to low concentration is called as what? Diffusion, right? Movement of substances from high concentration to low concentration across a concentration gradient is known as diffusion. So it's the main method by which these gases are diffusing. Okay, these gases are transferring inside and outside of a simple animal. Because these cells, why does the diffusion takes place in simple animals? Because their body surface is in contact with the is in directly contact with the external environment, because body cells are very small, body size is very small, so these are in direct contact with the external environment. So that's the main reason why the diffusion is taking place in simple animals. But when it comes to these large complex animals, their body complexity is very big, like mammals, like humans, maybe birds, and also reptiles, amphibians. All these are having what? Plants, all these are having complex body structures. Okay, so and also the energy requirement, because we have what? High metabolic rate, no? Therefore, the energy requirement is also very high. So all the cells inside the body are not in direct contact with the external environment. Imagine your heart is at the, like, exactly, maybe like almost at the center of your body, no? Like on your abdomen, the heart is at the center. Is it having a direct contact with the external environment? No, right? It doesn't have. And it's just an organ. But if we think about the cells inside the heart, those cells are like far and far away from the external environment. So these complex animals do not have what? Do not have direct contact with the external environment. So during evolutionary process, what happened was these complex organisms like developed certain respiratory structures, because they can't diffuse these carbon dioxide and oxygen gases here and there. No? So these complex organisms are now developing certain structures inside their body. For what? For the respiratory process. So we call these organs as what? Respiratory surfaces. So like specialized surfaces such as respiratory surfaces were evolved in complex animals. You all have to remember these respiratory surfaces are evolved in complex or large animals. But in simple animals, the respiration was always done by what? Was always by diffusion. These complex animals are now developing different types of respiratory surfaces. So we can say gills. Okay, there are different examples. So gills is one example. We have what? Gills. So gills are mainly used by what? Which animal? You can answer from the knowledge you have in Unit 3. What are the animals involving, like what are the animals having gills? The classes, very good. Fish. Both the types of fish are there, no? The osteochites and chondrichthyes. Yeah, what else? And also mollusk. Okay, so these animals are what? These animals are very good. Aquatic animals. So gills are present in which animals? Gills are present in aquatic animals. Gills are present in aquatic animals. And then in aquatic animals, oxygen gas, you all would have studied in grade 11 again, okay, in all levels, you all would have done that part. So in aquatic animals absorb the oxygen which is dissolved in water, right? So all these oxygens are dissolved in water. So that's how these aquatic organisms are absorbing all the dissolved oxygen from the aquatic, like from the water, and then only through these gills. Okay. And the terrestrial animals, okay, terrestrial animals, we have what? We have what? Lungs, okay, we are using the lungs. And also there are like trachea, okay, trachea and lungs. So these are the two organs through which terrestrial animals are, what? Terrestrial animals are extracting the oxygen. So terrestrial animals extract the oxygen from through the lungs and trachea from the atmosphere. But aquatic animals are extracting the oxygen dissolved in water through their gills. So these are like important stuff this which is coming under resource book. After each section, I'll read through the resource book. Okay, then y'all can highlight the important terms and stuff. So after each like maybe after each point, I will explain. I will just go through the resource book again as well. And then what happens is, so these are like different respiratory structures developed by these animals. After that, these respiratory structures are supposed to have four main characters. Okay, these respiratory surfaces are supposed to have different characters for the efficient gas exchange. Okay, for the efficient gas exchange, these respiratory structures should have different characters. So let's see what are the characters these respiratory surfaces are supposed to have. So initially, these respiratory surfaces should be very large. Okay, they should be. Imagine if this is the lungs. Okay, if we have a lungs. Okay, this lung should be one. It should be what? Very large surface area. Large surface area should be present. Okay, for the respiratories, this is for these are the characters of what? Respiratory surfaces. Respiratory surfaces. So these respiratory surfaces initially should have what? Should have a very large surface area because we require what? We require large amount of gas exchange at a small time period, no? So for that we should have a large surface area. So it is the one which is allowing sufficient volume of gas to be exchanged. Okay, so because some animals like even humans at different positions, like at different uh, periods of our life, we require like different amount of gases, no? Like when we are doing like exercise or like running, we require more oxygen, right? We need more oxygen. And like when we are just sleeping and stuff, we don't need that much of oxygen. So according to the need of organisms, these should absorb what? Sufficient volume of gas. So to obtain sufficient volume of gas, according to the organism's need, a large surface area is required. So why do we need a large surface area? Because of what? To obtain to obtain to obtain sufficient volume of gas. Okay, to obtain what? Sufficient volume of gas. This is a keyword. Okay, this to obtain a sufficient volume of gas, we require a large surface area. And then the second character is this respiratory surface should be permeable now. If it doesn't permit the gas to go in and out, there is no any point of being a respiratory surface, right? Therefore, this should be what? This should be permeable. This should allow the substances to go in and out. So it should be permeable. Permeable in the sense it should allow the substances to go in and out. And also, this respiratory surface should be moist. Okay, this should be wet, moist, or as we can say as wet. So this should be wet as well. Okay, this is supposed to be wet. Why is it being wet? We studied in diffusion in unit 4 that water and soluble substances diffuse like very fast, right? Because water is something which is in the liquid form. So without just the solids being diffused, the water in the liquid form can diffuse very fast. So when all the substances are dissolved in water, the diffusion will take place very fastly. So being wet is what being wet is advantageous for the sufficient efficient gaseous exchange by dissolving. So when it is wet, this gas exchange will take place like very efficiently by dissolving. Gas exchange by dissolving. Okay, when this is wet, gas exchange by dissolving. Okay, gas exchange will occur by dissolving. So first character is it should have a large surface area. Why is it supposed to have a large surface area? To obtain sufficient volume of gas. And the second character is permeable and wet. Okay, for permeable, they haven't given a reason. Permeable in the sense is what allow the gas to flow in and out now. And also it should be wet. Then only gas exchange by dissolving. So all the gases will be exchanged by dissolving in water. All the gases will dissolve in water and then only they will exchange very fast. That's why these respiratory surfaces are supposed to be wet. Okay, and the third main character is this should be thin. Imagine if you have like this diffusion is exactly like the perfume thing. No, if we spray a perfume from this place, and if we have a large wall here, will the smell go to this side? Just answer me, will the smell go to this side? Yeah, no, right? It won't reach the other side. But imagine if there is only a very thin curtain. What happens to the smell? It will reach the opposite side, right? It will reach the opposite side. Why is it? Because this membrane is very thin. This membrane is very thin. The more the membrane is thin, the more the diffusion will take place. So if this membrane is very thin, the diffusion will also take place very efficiently. So having a very thin membrane is also allowing for what? For an efficient short distance diffusion. Okay, so when the membrane is thin, it is also allowing for what? Short distance gas exchange. So this the third main character is it must be thin. Okay, the surface area must be give me yeah. The respiratory surface should be thin. Why is it supposed to be thin? Then only efficient gas exchange will take place over a short distance. Okay, for efficient gas exchange along a short distance. Okay, for this only the respiratory surface must be thin. And the last and the fourth main character is it should have a high blood supply. Okay, because most of the respiratory gases, like inside our body, all the respiratory gases are dissolved in what? Dissolved in the blood, no? Because blood is the one which mainly transport oxygen and carbon dioxide. Therefore, having a high blood circulatory system, like high blood supply to the respiratory system, is also a very beneficial a very advantageous thing. Then only the respiration of gases would take place efficiently. Therefore, it should have what? The fourth main thing is high blood supply. It should have what? It should have a high blood supply. Why is it supposed to have a high blood supply? To maintain a steep diffusion gradient. We'll be studying about this later in detail, okay? So we are having a high blood supply for what? For a steep diffusion gradient. To maintain a steep diffusion gradient, we are having a high blood supply. So is it clear up to this? The four main characters of the respiratory surface. Is it clear for everyone? You all have any doubts? No doubts, right? We'll be giving a short note on this unit as well. Y'all can refer the short note like for a quick revision. And what are you supposed to do? You have to stick to the resource book as well. Like I won't say just stick to my short notes. You all can refer the short note as well because it was made like for the easy reference. but you all have to stick to the resource book, because like there are like important points, no, like the way you are supposed to respond and all. So for that you have to stick to the resource book. So don't go for any other alternative resources than the resource book, especially for biology. Okay. And also, we'll be giving a worksheet by the end of today's session. So, y'all can try the questions in that. And also, I hope y'all know about our biocheck tubes. So, y'all can try the biocheck tubes also for this unit after we are done with the whole unit. Okay. So these are the four main characters. Once more, let's repeat all the four main characters. It should have what? Large surface area. Why is it supposed to have a large surface area? To obtain sufficient volume of gas. And the second character is what? Permeable and wet. It is supposed to be wet because gas exchange can be done by what? Dissolving. And also, the third main character is what? It should be thin. Why is it supposed to be thin? For the efficient gas exchange along a short distance, the respiratory surface must be thin. And then we have the fourth character, high blood supply. It is because to maintain a steep diffusion gradient. Okay, I'll just go through the resource book. You all mark the important points if there is any, okay? So I'll just read through the resource books here. Respiratory gas exchange, uptake of oxygen into the body, and release of carbon dioxide into the external environment occurs by diffusion. Highlight the term diffusion. In simple animals, cnidarians and flatworms. Just put an underline below the cnidarians and flatworms, okay? Flatworms. Every cell in the body is close enough to the external environment so that gas exchange can occur directly between all cells and environment. Highlight that occurs directly between the cells and the environment. Highlight that part. Diffusion through body surface is adequate as these animals have simple body forms and low energy requirement. Underline below the simple body form and low energy requirement. Okay. In large animals, body complexity and energy requirement is high, and the bulk of the cells in the body lack immediate access to external environment. Put underline the terms body complexity and put number one there. Okay, and energy requirement is high, put number two. And bulk of the cells in the body lack immediate access, put number three. Because there might be a question why these large animals develop respiratory surfaces, Kerala. For that, what you are supposed to give, there are three reasons. Body complexity is high, energy requirement is high, and the bulk of the cells in the body lack immediate access to what? Access to the external environment. So there are three reasons for this. Hence, gas exchange occurs through the body surface is not adequate to fulfill their energy requirement. As a result, specialized surfaces referred as respiratory surfaces have evolved where gas exchange occurs. With the increase of the body size and complexity, the surface area to volume ratio of animal decreases. Mark this point, surface area to volume from here. With the increase of body size and complexity, surface area to volume ratio of animals decreases. That's the main point in this paragraph, okay? This is the reason why these animals are having a requirement for this respiratory surface. Okay. However, a large surface area is required for efficient gas exchange, and thus diverse respiratory structures with large surface area with folding and branching has evolved for efficient gas exchange. Examples for such respiratory structures are gills, trachea, and lungs. External projections of the body, such as gills, were evolved in aquatic animals. Highlight that gills evolved in what animals? Aquatic animals. Why is it evolved? For the efficient extraction of dissolved oxygen from water. For the efficient extraction of dissolved oxygen from water. Wait, let me share. for the efficient extraction of dissolved oxygen from the water. Okay. Next, see here. On the other hand, surface imaginations like trachea and lungs were evolved in terrestrial animals for efficient extraction of oxygen from the atmosphere. For the efficient extraction of oxygen from where? From the atmosphere. So these four are the main characteristics of respiratory surfaces. Remember, these are characteristic of what? Respiratory surfaces, not the human respiratory surfaces. This is common for all the respiratory surfaces. Okay. It must be what? It must be permeable and wet. It must be permeable and also it must be wet. Why is that? So that gas pass through by dissolving. All the gas can pass through by dissolving. It must be thin because diffusion is only efficient over short distance. See here, it must be thin. Why? Because diffusion is only efficient through a short distance. It should possess a large surface area. It should possess what? Possess a large surface area to allow sufficient volume of gas to be exchanged according to the organism's need. It should possess a good blood supply. Why is it supposed to have a good blood supply? To maintain a steep diffusion gradient. Okay, so these are the four main characteristics of respiratory surfaces. And now let's move for the respiratory structures. So we have different respiratory structures in animals. See here, body surfaces. Some animals such as cnidarians, flatworms, earthworms, all these three are doing the respiration process through their body surfaces because they do not have the developed respiratory surfaces. And now we have gills. There are two types of gills. One is the external gill and the other one is what? Internal gills. External gills are used by marine annelids. Okay, remember it's used by what annelids? Marine annelids. Because annelids, like for annelids, they use different types of prefixes. Okay, I don't know, like maybe I think in unit yeah, in circulatory system they have used in this respiratory pigments was there. No? So in that they have like used some annelids, few annelids, more all annelids and all. So for that you all remember that these annelids are what? Marine annelids. So external gills are used by marine annelids. And internal gills are used by what? Fish, shrimps and prawns. So these are the organisms which use internal gills. And then we have the tracheal system. Okay, this is not the trachea, this is the tracheal system. This is mainly used by insects. And then the lungs is mainly used by mammals, reptiles, and birds. Okay, mammals, reptiles, and birds. All these three have what? Lungs. And skins are used by amphibians. Remember, skin and the body surface is not the same. Okay, skin and the body surface is not the same. And we have what? We have the book lungs. Book lungs are used by what? Spiders and scorpions. Tell me what is the common name for spiders and scorpions? Unit 3 again. Common name for spiders and scorpions. No, spiders and scorpions. What's the common name? Very good. It's the arachnids. Okay, it's the arachnids, not the arthropods. That is the phylum, right? For spiders and scorpions, we give a name called what? Arachnids. Okay, these are like unit 3 stuffs. So it's clear, right? Up to this point, it's clear, no? So shall we move to the next part? Yeah. Okay. So we'll move to the human respiratory system. Now we are going to move into the human respiratory system. So human respiratory system consists of different parts. Okay, human respiratory system has different parts. You all should be able to draw the human respiratory system completely and should also be able to mark all the points. Like in biology, all the diagrams should be drawn by yourself. Okay, try to draw all the diagrams before your exams, and also you should know to mark each and every point. So try that before any term test. Like you all are having the third term test on 17th, the FWC papers are there. No? So before that even like you can try all the this one what is all the diagrams given in the resource book from unit 1 to unit 5, because those diagrams are very important, because diagrams consist of 6 to 10 marks now in the essay. For one essay, the diagram has 6 to 10 marks. So diagrams are very, very important. You all should know to draw. Okay, now let's go for the human respiratory system. So human respiratory system is starting like this. Is starting from where? From the nostrils. Okay, we are having the nostrils. So it is starting from the nostrils. Okay, there would be holes in the nose. No, that is what we call as what? Nostrils. And then we have the nasal cavity. Okay, we are having the, don't mind my drawing. Okay, okay, we have the nasal cavity, the opening. Okay, we call this is the buccal cavity. No? This is the nasal cavity. Okay, cavity in a sense, it's like a vacuum. No? So this is the nasal cavity. Nasal cavity. And then this nasal cavity is going down and then it's meeting a point where both the nasal cavity and the buccal cavity are meeting. Okay, this is like a junction. This is the buccal cavity. No, this is the buccal cavity. Okay, this nasal cavity and the buccal cavity are now coming and meeting at a point called pharynx. This is like a junction. Okay, pharynx is something which is like a junction. So this is the pharynx. So here what is happening? Here both the nasal cavity. So from the nasal cavity we are getting all the types of airs, and from the buccal cavity the food is coming. So both the food then this air is meeting at the point called what? Pharynx. And when it goes down, this pharynx is dividing into two main pathways. Okay, pharynx is getting divided into two main pathways. One is the respiratory tract. This is what? This is the respiratory tract. Okay, so today we are going to study about this tract only. Okay, respiratory tract. And the other one is the digestive tract. So we need this respiratory tract only now. So from the pharynx, now what is happening? Now the gas is coming down. So when the gas is coming down, there would be like someone who is like a gatekeeper. Okay, it is like a gate. Remember this, there is something like a gate. So this is the epiglottis. Okay, this is the glottis, the opening of this. The remember the gate is known as the glottis. Okay, the gate is called as the glottis. The opening of the gate, like even in the gate, you have the opening, right? You have a small door. So this door is called as what? Epiglottis. Remember like that. Okay, there is glottis, and the opening of the glottis is called as what? The epiglottis. So glottis has an opening. Okay, this opening is called as what? Opening is the epiglottis. Okay, opening is the epiglottis. So glottis is there and the opening is there called as what? Epiglottis is there. So now the gas is coming here. So both the food and gas is coming here now. So all the time, like most of the time when the food is coming through the buccal cavity to the pharynx, this epiglottis quickly, now it's Adan, like we'll start after the Adan, okay? Okay, now let's continue, okay? So what is happening here? We have the epiglottis and the glottis. And in the digestive tract, we have the esophagus. You all would have studied the digestive system, no? So in the digestive tract, we have the esophagus, the long tube. So now, when the food enters into the pharynx, okay, when the food all the time we used to breathe, no, so air will always enter. But when the food enters the pharynx, what happens is this epiglottis is closing its door. Okay, the epiglottis is closing the door of the gate. So now what is happening? The food is coming here, and then what happens now? The gate is closed now, so it can't go inside this. So then what is happening? It goes and slide into the esophagus. Okay, that's what happens in the epiglottis part. I'll explain that again, like we have a process for explaining that portion. So I'll explain that in detail again. So then from the glottis, we have the respiratory tract. So the respiratory tract is starting from a point called larynx. Okay, after the pharynx, inside the respiratory tract, we have the part called what? We have the larynx. Okay, we have the larynx. And then this larynx is going down and then it forms the trachea. Okay, it forms what? It forms the trachea. Okay, it is forming the trachea. And after that, this trachea is getting divided into two main parts. Okay, trachea is getting divided into what? Two main parts. We call these as bronchi. Okay, these are what? Bronchi. So these two are known as the bronchi. These two are the bronchi. And then these two bronchi are getting further divided into small branches. Okay, this would be divided into smaller and smaller branches like this. Okay, this would be further divided into smaller and smaller branches like this. Okay, we call these as the bronchioles. Okay, these are known as what? Bronchioles. So trachea is initially getting divided into two main branches, bronchi, and the bronchi is further divided into small and small branches called as bronchioles. And then these small branches have to end at a certain point, no? So this ending point of these branches are like swallowed, okay? These are like swallowed and forming like small air sacs, okay? So we call these small air sacs at the end of the bronchioles as what? Alveoli. Okay, this is called as what? Alveoli. So these are the main parts of this branches of the respiratory system. Okay, so the respiratory system starts to branch from where? From the trachea, right? From the trachea, the respiratory system is starting to branch. So the branching ducts are starting from where? From the trachea. Trachea is branching into two bronchi, and each bronchi are uh, further branching into small and small bronchioles, and then they are ending at the alveoli. And now these respiratory systems can't be like this, no? So now what is supposed to happen is all these are packed into one large lungs. Okay, this would be packed inside one large lungs, and this would be packed inside another large lung. Okay, so these two are what? The lungs. So inside the lungs, what do we have? We have the bronchioles, and then we have what? Alveoli, and also, yeah, only those two are present inside the lungs. Remember, the branching ducts are starting from where? The branching ducts are the trachea, bronchioles, bronchi, and the alveoli. Okay, but inside the lungs, we have what? We have only the bronchioles and the alveoli. Remember that point very well. Okay, inside the lungs, we have only bronchioles and alveoli. Okay, so these bronchioles and alveoli are contained within these two lungs. So these two lungs are having a cone-shaped structure. Okay, these lungs are what? They are paired and also they have cone-shaped structure. Like this is not the exact structure of the lungs. Lungs are more beautiful than this, no. So these lungs are having a cone-shaped structure. Okay. and they are located. There are like different this is what is that? Cavities inside our body. Okay, thoracic cavity and stuff. Okay, so abdominal cavity or something was there now. So this respiratory system, this cavity which is present above the stomach is called as the respiratory system. Sorry, the thoracic cavity. Okay, so this respiratory system is mainly present in which cavity? It is mainly present in the thoracic cavity. Remember, respiratory systems are present in the thoracic cavity. Okay, they are present in thoracic cavity. Okay, and then what happens to this respiratory system is we are going to study about the lungs now. Is the structure clear? Is the structure of the respiratory system clear? Then I can move for the lungs thing. Is the structure clear? For everyone, it's clear, no? If you'll have any doubts, any doubts, whatever it is, fine. No doubts, no? Okay. So now we'll move to the lungs. Okay, now we'll move to the structure of the lungs. Okay. So we have what are the two organs present inside the like what are the two branches present inside the lungs? Tell me soon. What are the two branches present inside the lungs? Okay. Alveoli and the other one is very good. Bronchioles and alveoli. And what are the four main branching ducts? The four main branching ducts are okay, trachea and then very good. Trachea, bronchi, bronchioles and alveoli. Very good. Okay, now let's move for the next part. So what happens is we have these lungs now. So in which side of our body the heart is present? Left or right? In which side we have our hearts? Very good. Left, right. So we have the lungs like this. And then the heart is present in this left side. No? The heart is present in the left side of our body. Therefore, the left lung is smaller than the right lung. Okay, the heart is present on the left side. As a result, what has happened? The left lung has become smaller than the right lung. Okay, the left lung has become smaller than the right lung. Therefore, left lung is slightly smaller than the right lung because why? Because the heart is located on the left side. Okay, and then if it is small, it has only two lobes. And if it is large, it has three lobes. Okay, so the right lung has three. Remember like that, it's easy, three is larger than two. So the right lung is having, yeah, give me a minute. Give me a minute. Okay. So the left lung is smaller than the right lung, and the left lung is have only two lobes, but the right lung is having three lobes. So this is like you got three essay points. See here, left lung is smaller than the right lung, and also you can add that point as well. Why is it? Because the heart is located the heart is located to the left of the apex, and then right lung has three lobes, and the left lung has two lobes. So four essay points were there. So 16 marks. So just that's how you have to go with the essays. Don't just go to memorize, just understand, okay? And then what is happening? Now we have the lungs. So these lungs are having two membranes, okay? This lungs is having what? Two membranes are there. For both the lungs, there are two membranes. Okay, there are two membranes in both the lungs. I'll just draw for one. Okay, the inner membrane is called as the visceral pleura. The inner membrane is there, no? We call this inner membrane as the visceral pleura. Okay, this is called as what? Visceral pleura. Okay, see here, it is adhering to what? Outer surface of the lungs, right? This is adhering to the outer surface of the lungs. So you can remember like that. Visceral pleura adheres to what? Adheres to the outer surface of the lungs. Outer surface of the lungs. Okay, and see the outer layer. The outer layer is what? The inner layer is the visceral pleura adhering to the outer surface of the lungs, and the outer membrane is called as what? Outer membrane is the parietal pleura. Okay, parietal pleura. Parietal pleura. So this parietal pleura is adhering to the wall of the thoracic cavity because this is present in which cavity? This is present in the thoracic cavity. So the parietal pleura is adhering to the wall of the thoracic cavity. Wall of the thoracic cavity. See here also we can get four main points. There are two main membranes surrounding each lungs, and we have the inner membrane as the visceral pleura. It is adhering to the outer surface of the lungs, and we have the outer membrane as the parietal pleura, which is adhering to the outer wall of the thoracic cavity. Okay. And then what happens is in between these two layers, in between the visceral pleura and the parietal pleura, we are having a fluid filled cavity. Okay, the in between the parietal pleura and visceral pleura, we are having a fluid filled cavity. Okay, is it clear the structure of the lungs? Clear, no? Okay. So now we'll move for the. Can I explain it again? Okay. See here, we have the lungs. Okay. The heart is located on which location? The heart is located to the left of the apex. If this is the apex. If this is the axis, this is located somewhat left towards the apex. Okay. And therefore, what has happened? This left lung has to give the space for this heart. No. Therefore, the size of the left lung is reduced, and the right lung is having a usual size, okay, because it is not giving any space for anyone, but this left lung has given the space for the heart. Therefore the left lung has become small, and as it is small, it has only two lobes. Okay, but the right lung is having what? Three lobes. Right lung is having three lobes because it is not giving spaces for anyone. And both the lungs are surrounded by two membranes. Okay, both the lungs are having two membranes. One is the inner membrane and the other one is what? Outer membrane. The inner membrane, see here, this inner membrane, I'll draw it again with the blue color marker, okay? The inner membrane is called as what? Visceral pleura. Okay, the inner membrane is known as the visceral pleura. It is adhering to which surface? It is adhering to the outer surface of the lungs. See here, this is the outer surface of the lungs now. After that only we have what? Pleura. We have the visceral pleura. Therefore, the visceral pleura is adhering to the outer surface of the lungs. Okay, and then the outer membrane. Who is the outer membrane? The parietal pleura. See here, the parietal pleura, outside the parietal pleura, what do we have? We have the thoracic cavity. So this thoracic cavity, like the skeletal system, okay? So you will be learning in grade 13 last part, okay? In unit 5, grade 13 last part only, we have the skeletal system. So under that, we'll be learning about the thoracic cavity and the structures. So we have the ribs and the sternum and all, no. So all these are located. So these ribs would be present outside, right? These ribs would be present outside like this. So the parietal pleura is the one which is adhering to the wall of the thoracic cavity. Okay, the thoracic cavity wall is located somewhere outer to the parietal pleura. Is it clear? And also in between the visceral pleura and parietal pleura, we have a what? Fluid filled space. Is it clear? Oh, you all have any doubts still? Okay. So now let's move to see the process of breathing, like how this breathing happens. So now what happens from the environment? This gas exchange is taking place. Okay, from the environment, all these oxygen gases are entering what? Entering our body. Okay, now it is entering through what? Entering through the nostrils and then enters to the nasal cavity. And inside the nasal cavity, three things are happening. Okay, inside the nasal cavity, this is the nasal cavity now. If this is the nose, yeah, if this is the nostrils, we have the nasal cavity now. Inside this nasal cavity, we have cilia. Okay, there are like small, small hairs inside our nose now. So that's the cilia. Okay, we have the cilia. Whenever cilia is present, okay, remember whenever there is cilia, mucus will be always there. Okay, the cilia would be having what? Mucus layer. Because I hope you all remember the pseudo-stratified column epithelium. In epithelial tissue. That also had what? That also had the cilia and also mucus. So this cilia and mucus are like always like they have good combination. They are always present together. So this nasal cavity has both the cilia and mucus. Okay, now these when we breathe, what happens? All the air will be entering through this nasal cavity. Will only the oxygen enter? No, right? All the oxygen and the dust particles, all the small, small like antigens, pollens, all these things would enter into our nasal cavity. So when all these things enter into our nasal cavity, what happens is this mucus is there. No? This mucus is trapping all these things. Okay, this mucus will trap all these things because this mucus is like what? Slimy gel-like thing. No? So this mucus will trap all these foreign bodies which are entering the nasal cavity. Okay, because it doesn't want the substances to enter the respiratory system. So this will trap all these things. But even if it traps, it can't move them out of the body, no. So what happens is we have this cilia now. Okay, this cilia is helping for beating. Okay, you all would have studied under ATP. What is that? ATP function, beating of cilia now. So by using the energy from ATP, these cilia will start to move here and there. Okay, the cilia will move here and there. But these mucus are present on the top of the cilia no? And they have trapped all the foreign bodies, dust and stuff. Now the cilia is moving here and there. When the cilia moves, what happens is all these mucus containing the foreign substances will be swept into the esophagus. Okay, all these contaminants would be swept into what? Sweep the things into this. What is that? Esophagus. This is also happening in the trachea. Okay, this is also happening in the trachea. This mainly sweeps the things out of the body, and inside the trachea we can't send those things to the lungs. No. So what happens is this cilia is moving upward and allow all these substances to go into the esophagus. Okay, so the cilia present in the trachea. Okay, mainly the cilia present in the trachea is helping for what? Helping to sweep all the mucus containing dust and foreign contaminants into the esophagus. Okay, now let's go for this nasal cavity thing. Okay, we have the cilia and also we have mucus in the nasal cavity. So in the nasal cavity, three main things are happening for these gases. Okay, for the oxygen, for the inspired gases. So initially, these gases would be filtered, okay, because we have the cilia and mucus, so these are like filtering all these gases. This gas will undergo three main process, okay. The gas will undergo Okay, this gas will undergo three main process. Initially, it will be filtered. Okay, it would be filtered. So initially, it would be filtered, and then the nasal cavity will warm all these gas. Okay, this is something which you all learned in grade 11 as well. I hope, I guess. Okay, and then all these gas would be what? Warmed. After that, what is happening? Now this is humidified. Okay, so these three are the things which is happening for the gas which enters into the nasal cavity. So the gas entering the nasal cavity undergo three main things. One is it is getting filtered and then warmed and finally it is humidified. So these three are the main things happening for the gas entering the nasal cavity. Okay. Now what happens? Now the gas is going into the pharynx. Now the gas is somewhat clean, no, but still it have contaminants. Okay, see, still there would be like foreign substances because it's not filtered completely. Now the gas is moving into where? Moving into the pharynx. Now it has to move into the respiratory tract. So this epiglottis is opening the gate. Okay, epiglottis is opening the glottis, and then what is happening? This is slowly moving down to the larynx. So in the larynx, we have the opening. No, in the larynx, we have the opening. I said the function of this glottis right earlier. So whenever the food enters into the glottis, what is happening? The opening of the glottis, which is called as the opening of the door of the glottis is the epiglottis. Okay, so the epiglottis will be closing the glottis. Okay, and then what happens? All the food will be swept into the esophagus. It won't allow the food to enter the respiratory system. Okay, then the rest of the time when there is no food, when we are not eating, what is happening? The glottis is open, or the glottis will be kept open. So what happens? All the gases will enter into the larynx. Okay, all the gases from the pharynx are entering into the larynx, and then larynx is going up down, and then finally this larynx would be reaching into a place called what? Trachea. Okay, so when before reaching the trachea, this larynx have like some thick cords. Okay, this larynx have a vocal cord. Okay, which is made up of large elastic bands. Okay, this larynx has what? Large elastic bands called what? Vocal cords. Okay, this larynx has what? Vocal cords. So the vocal cords are made up of what? Large elastic bands. Okay, vocal cords are there in the larynx, and then these vocal cords are consist of what? Large elastic bands. So these vocal cords helps to produce sound. Okay, mainly these vocal cords you all would have studied, right? Like we used to do this experiment to using the balloon and a tin. So this vocal cord is also doing the same thing. When all the air, okay, when the air enters into the what? Through the larynx, when the air enters and when they go past the vocal cord, what happens is this vocal cord starts to vibrate because this was like tense. No, this was like having a very high elasticity, and when the gas enters into this, it's like this. Give me a second. This it's like this. Okay, this would be like vocal cord. So what happens is when the air enters, and when air enters through the larynx and enters the vocal cord, what happens is this will starts to vibrate. Okay, that's the reason why the sound is mainly produced. So when expired air rushes across this tensed stretched vocal cord, what is happening? This vocal cord starts to vibrate. Okay, so the so then after that, this air is entering what organ? The air is entering the trachea. So you have to remember both the trachea and larynx are having what? Cartilage, because when large amount of air enters both the larynx and trachea, they have to stay strong, right? For that only they are made up of what? Where they are made up of cartilage, because they have to keep the airway open always. Okay, to keep the airway open always, this trachea and then the larynx are supposed to be what? Suppose this is the larynx, no? This is the larynx. And then we have the trachea here. We have the trachea. So both of these are made up of what? Both of these are made up of cartilage. Why are they made up of cartilage? Because they have to be they have to keep their airways keep open. Okay, they have to keep the airways open always. That's why the larynx and trachea are made up of cartilage. Then what happens? Now the air is passing from the trachea and then into the two bronchi. Okay, and then the same thing goes to the bronchi, and then for the bronchiole, and then finally it is going for what? Alveolar. So there is a process called mucus escalate. Okay, there is something called what? Mucus escalate. It's the exact thing I explained. Escalate, okay? So this mucus escalated process is like this, okay? We have the in the branching tubes. Okay, we have the four main branches. No, like the branches are starting from the trachea, especially in the trachea and the bronchi. We have this thing, cilia and the mucus. Okay, the epithelium is found in the major branches of respiratory tract. The trachea and bronchi are having what? Cilia and mucus. Okay, so this mucus is helping to trap what? Dust and other particulates. No, so whenever the foreign bodies are entering into our respiratory system, initially it will be filtered, but still it might have like, so the gas is not fully filtered. No, therefore the small dust and other particles would be coming into the trachea as well. Since this trachea is having the mucus and cilia, this mucus will initially trap all these small dust particles and all. Okay, this mucus will trap all those dust and particulate contaminants. Okay, after that, what happens? Whenever this mucus trapping all these things, cilia starts to beat. Okay, cilia will move here and there, and then this will move the mucus because it won't allow the mucus to enter the lungs. So what is supposed to happen? This cilia moves upward and then allow the mucus to move down into the esophagus. Okay, this cilia will be moving upward, and then it will move all the mucus towards the pharynx, and finally this will be swallowed into what? Swallowed into the esophagus. Okay, and then it would be removed out of the body. So this whole process is called as what? Mucus escalator. So in mucus escalator, what are the things happening? The major branches are having what? The cilia and the mucus layer. And mucus layer is doing what? Mucus layer is trapping all the dust and contaminants. Okay, foreign contaminants, and mucus. This dust would be trapped by the what? Mucus part. And then whenever mucus trap all these things, who is getting activated? The cilia. Okay, the cilia will start to beat now. When the cilia beats, what is happening? This mucus will be moved upward and towards whom? Towards the pharynx. And finally, it would be swallowed into the esophagus. So this process is called as the what? Mucus escalator. So this is something which is helping to clean the respiratory system. So the mucus escalator is helping to clean the respiratory system. So that's it about the mucus escalator system. Is it clear? Mucus escalator, okay. This mucus escalator is like this, okay. The branching system was the branches in the respiratory system. So these branches will have cilia, okay. These branches will have what? Cilia and mucus, okay. Mainly the trachea, okay. This will have cilia and mucus. So what happens is these mucus are like something which is having a slime jelly-like structure. No? So when the gases are having dust and other contaminants, this mucus will trap all these contaminants. Okay. Whenever mucus trap all these things, what happens is this cilia was there. Now, this cilia will start to beat. Okay, this cilia will start to move here and there because it has to move the mucus out. So then the cilia can't allow the mucus to go down. No. So it is moving upward. It is allowing to move the mucus upward. So all the mucus will be moved upward and towards whom? Towards the pharynx. And finally, all these things will be swallowed into the esophagus because it won't allow it to enter the trachea again. No? That's why it is getting swallowed into the esophagus. By this way, this is cleaning the whole respiratory system because it is not allowing the dust to enter the lungs. No, that's the main process by which it cleans the respiratory system. Is it clear? Okay. Wait, I'll show. I kept a video to show for you all. Give me a minute. Not a minute. Actually, a second. Give me a second. I'll show. Okay. The mucus excretory thing. Mm, I don't think you all can hear the sound, but let me try. I hope the video is clear for you all. You all got an idea, right, from the video? Okay. Okay. Now we'll move to the alveoli part. Okay. We'll move for the alveoli thing. Now we came until the bronchioles. Now we are going to move into the alveoli stuff. The alveoli is the respiratory surface. Okay, it's not the lungs who is known as the respiratory surface of the human body. It's the alveoli. Okay, now at the tip of the tiniest bronchioles. Okay, at the tip of the tiniest bronchioles, we have large number of air sacs. Okay, we have this tiny tiny bronchioles now. So at the tip of these tiny bronchioles, we would have large air sacs. Okay, we are having what? Large air sacs. Okay, these large air sacs are called as what? These are called as the alveoli. Okay, so the air will be passes into these air sacs called what? Alveoli. This is the main site at which gas exchange take place. So this is what? Alveoli. Okay, in the alveoli only what is taking place? Gas exchange. Okay, gas exchange mainly takes place in the alveoli. The walls of the alveoli have like these walls are there no. These walls of the alveoli, we studied that there are like four main characters right for the respiratory surface. So this alveoli is the respiratory surface now. Okay, this is the respiratory surface of human. Okay, respiratory surface of human is what? The alveoli. Okay, the alveoli is the one who is playing the role of respiratory surface in humans. So this alveoli should have all those four characters. Now we'll see how it shows all those four characters. So the wall of the alveoli consists of what? Single layer of flattened epithelial cells. Okay, this wall of the alveoli consists of a single layer of flattened epithelial cells. There would be a single layer of, this is what? Single layer of flattened epithelial cells. Okay, flattened epithelial cells. It consists of a single layer of flattened epithelial cells. Okay, but these alveoli do not have cilia. Okay, these alveoli do not have cilia. No cilia is present. Okay, you all have to write this note as well. Then only you all will get another point for the essays. So this will lack cilia, but it consists of what? Single layer of flattened epithelial cells. Okay, and the inner lining of the alveoli is having what? A thin film of fluid. Okay, this inner lining is having what? This inner lining is having a thin film of fluid. Okay, there would be a thin film of fluid. A thin film of fluid is present in the inner layer of the alveoli. Okay. We studied right when there is like a fluid inside the inner layer, what is happening, all these gases will dissolve, so that is what which makes the respiratory surface wet. Okay, and then the each lung, okay, each lung consists of what? Millions of alveoli. Each lung will have millions of alveoli inside them. Okay, millions of alveoli would be present inside each alveoli. And if there are like millions of alveoli, okay, due to the presence of millions of alveoli, what is the benefit? Millions of alveoli are there. So we have what? We have large surface area. We have large surface area because it consists of millions of alveoli. So this is the first character we studied under what? Respiratory surface. So this character is here. Okay, and the second character is here. Thin film of fluid. Okay, it is thin. And then see here, let's go for the next part. Okay, it consists of large surface area. And each alveolus is surrounded by what? Network of capillaries. There are like large blood vessels which are surrounding all these alveoli. All these alveoli are surrounded by what? Large capillaries. All these are surrounded by capillaries. Okay. All these consist of capillaries. Therefore, the fourth main character was here. What is that? Consists of large high blood supply should be there for the respiratory surface. Why is it? To maintain the steep diffusion gradient. No, so this character is also present inside this alveoli. So then, what is happening? All the oxygen would be entering into what? Entering into the alveoli, and then they dissolve in the moist film of fluid. So we have two main characters here. One, it is thin, and the other one is what? It consists of the fluid. So the four main characters are completed in the respiratory surface of human, which is the what? Which is the alveoli. So what happens is now the oxygen will be entering into these bronchioles, and then finally it will reach the alveoli. And now it is like dissolving in the film of the fluid. Okay, it is dissolving in the film of fluid, and then it would be rapidly diffused across the epithelium in the capillaries, and then finally what is happening, this would be dissolved into what, into the blood capillaries. So that's how the alveoli, the gas exchange in the alveoli takes place. And at the same time, what is happening? These blood capillaries are having carbon dioxide. Right? We'll be studying about this deeply. So these blood capillaries are having carbon dioxide. And all these carbon dioxide are dissolving in the fluid, and then they would be moved into the alveoli. Okay, they will diffuse into the alveoli. So since there is no, like we studied, right, there is no cilia in the alveoli. Okay, there is no cilia in the alveoli. Instead of cilia, we have white blood cells, WBC. Okay, this white blood cells is also involving in defense mechanisms, no? So these white blood cells will engulf the foreign particles. These white blood cells will do what? Engulf the foreign particles. Engulfing foreign particles by the white blood cell. How do we call this process? Engulfing foreign particles by the white blood cells is called as what process? What is the process? Anyone? Very good. It's the phagocytosis. Okay, engulfing foreign particles from the foreign particles by the WBC, by the white blood cell is called as what? Phagocytosis. So the phagocytosis action can be seen in what? In the can be seen in this alveoli, because it has what? White blood cells. But you can't use the term phagocytosis because they haven't given in the resource book. No. So you have to go with the resource book terms. You have to write WBC are present instead of A, since there is no cilia, and they involve in what? Engulfing in foreign particles. Okay. And also there is like surfactant. Okay. There is like surfactant which is coated on top of these alveoli. Okay. All these alveoli are coated by a surfactant. Okay. A surfactant would be coated on top of this alveoli. This is preventing this collapse of alveoli. Okay. So, because there are like large number of alveoli. No, imagine it's like a grape. Like there is these grapes, no, like grapes also there would be like lot of grapes would be bound together. Like sometimes these grapes would crush on top of each other, no, and then they would collapse. So to prevent the collapse of these alveoli, there is a surfactant coated on top of these alveoli. So this is preventing what? This is avoiding uh, collapse due to high surface tension. Okay, sometimes these alveoli might get burst. So to prevent the collapse of the alveoli by due to high tension, we have what? Surfactant, which is coated on top of this alveoli. Is it clear about the alveoli? Are all the points clear for you all about alveoli? For everyone, is it clear? No doubts, no? Let me check with everyone. Yeah, major branch is trachea and bronchi, and the minor branches are bronchioles. Okay, no, clear, right? Okay. So shall we just read the resource book and go? Because resource book points are very important. That's why I highlight the resource book more and more because you all will understand the importance of resource book when you go for the exam only. Okay, so don't use any other resources like notes and then Campbell biology. Or you all don't need all those things. Okay, refer only this resource book because the marking scheme. If you refer the A level marking scheme, the correct marking scheme is exactly the resource book now. So refer the resource book. Be like just resource book is the enough. Okay, I studied resource book only. I didn't do this one past paper much as well. I did like model papers, FWC model papers, and the main thing was resource book for me. I didn't add any notes or even. And yeah, resource book is enough to be honest. Okay, we'll see here. Human respiratory system consists of following major parts. So when they ask for the major parts of the human respiratory system, you have to give all these: nostrils, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, series of you don't need to give this term. See here, series of branching ducts starting from. See here, the branching ducts are starting from where? Starting from the trachea. Okay, the branching ducts are starting from the trachea, and then the two bronchi, one leading to each lung, and then we have what? The smaller bronchioles, and finally end in air sacs called what? Alveoli. The bronchioles and the alveoli are contained within the paired cone-shaped lungs. So lungs are what? They are paired and they are cone-shaped. And located in which cavity? Located in the thoracic cavity. The two lungs differ slightly in shape and size. Okay, the two lungs are different in size and shape. And also, the left lung is slightly smaller than the right lung. See here, the left lung is slightly smaller, not smaller. You have to give the term what? Slightly smaller. It is slightly smaller than the right lung. Why is it? Because the apex of the heart is slightly to the left of the median plane. Okay, the apex of the heart is slightly to the left of the median plane. That's why the left lung is slightly smaller than the right lung. And the left lung has how many lobes? It has two lobes, and the right lung has three lobes. And each lung is surrounded by how many membranes? By two membranes. So each lung is consist of two membranes. The inner membrane is called the visceral pleura, adheres to the outer surface of the lung, and while the outer membrane is called as what? Parietal pleura, adheres to the wall of the thoracic cavity. Between these two membranes, there is a thin fluid filled space. So we read all these points. During breathing, air enters the respiratory system through the nostrils. That's obviously. In the nasal cavity, air is filtered by hairs and it is warmed and humidified. See here, there are three main points. Initially, it is filtered and then it is warmed, and finally, what has happened? It is humidified. As it travels through the spaces in the nasal cavity, the nasal cavity led to the pharynx, which is a common passage for both air and food. See here, it is the common passage for what? Both air and food. That means air passage and food passage cross each other. During swallowing of the food, larynx move upward, which allow the epiglottis to close the opening of the larynx called glottis. Remember, the opening of the larynx is what? The glottis. The door which is closing the glottis is what? Epiglottis. So epiglottis is the one which can move up and down, not the glottis. Okay, glottis is the opening. The hole is if this is the hole. Remember, if this is the hole. Okay, the opening is called as the epiglottis, and this is the glottis. So the glotting is the opening of the pharynx, sorry, larynx, but the gate thing, the opening of the gate-like one is the epiglottis. And then let's move to this one. Okay, this allow the food to go down to the esophagus, to the stomach. The rest of the time, the glottis is open so that the air can move from the pharynx to the larynx to the trachea. In the larynx, there are moved. In the larynx are vocal cords, which are made up of largely elastic bands of muscles. So vocal cords are made up of what? Large elastic bands of muscles. These vocal cords helps to produce sound. Ya Allah, what has happened? Okay. These vocal cords consist of large elastic bands. Vocal cords helps to produce sound when expired air rushes across the stretched or tensed vocal cords, causing them to what? Vibrate. Both the walls of the larynx and trachea are strengthened by what? Strengthened by the cartilage. That helps to keep this airway open. Okay, this is helping to keep the airway open. That's why these are made up of cartilage. The air passes from trachea into the two bronchi that lead into each lung. Okay, air is passing from trachea and then into the two bronchi and then into each lungs. Within the lungs, the air passes through the smaller and smaller branches called bronchioles. Branches of the bronchi called bronchioles. The epithelium found in the major branches of the respiratory tract has cilia and a thin film of mucus. It consists of what? Cilia and thin film of mucus. The mucus helps to trap the dust and other particulate contaminants. So, okay, mucus is helping to trap what? Dust and other particulate contaminants in the inhaled air. Then the beating of the cilia moves the mucus upward. Then what happens? The cilia starts to move and helps to move the mucus upward towards the pharynx where it is swallowed into the esophagus. This process is referred as what? Mucus escalator. This helps to clean the respiratory system. This is the function of the cleaning the respiratory system is the function of the mucus escalator. There might be a structural question sometimes. Okay. At the tip of the tiniest bronchioles are a large number of small air sacs clustered together. The air passes into these sacs called alveoli, where gas exchange occurs. The wall of the alveoli are made up of single layer of flattened epithelial cell. Remember, it's the single layer, okay? Not multiple layers. Single layer of flattened epithelial cells that lack cilia. This inner lining of the alveoli is coated by a thin film of fluid. Okay, it consists of one thin film of fluid. Okay, it consists of thin film of fluid. The lungs contain millions of alveoli. This allows a large surface area for gas exchange. Allow a large surface area for gas exchange. Each alveolus is surrounded by a network of capillaries. Each alveoli consists of what? Network of capillaries. Oxygen in the air enters the alveoli, dissolve in a moist film, and rapidly diffuse across the thin epithelium into the capillaries. Okay. Meanwhile, the next diffusion of carbon dioxide, then what happens? The carbon dioxide from the capillaries are moving into the alveoli. Since there is no cilia in alveoli, there are what? White blood cells in the alveoli to engulf foreign particles. Alveoli are coated with the surfactant that reduces the surface tension by preventing the collapse of the alveoli due to high surface tension. So that's it about the alveoli. Now you all can move to this region. Okay? Not this even this part. Okay, you all have to move to this page. See here, here they have given the characteristic of the human respiratory surface. Okay, human respiratory surface. See here, they have given as lungs. Okay, but actually it's the alveoli which is having all these characters now. So the lungs serve as what? Efficient respiratory surface. Why is it? See here, these are the reasons. Alveoli create a large surface area for gas exchange. Second reason, alveoli and capillary walls both are lined by simple squamous epithelia, which reduces the distance the gas needed to travel by diffusion. If it is reducing the distance the gas needed to travel by diffusion, it is, in short, we can say as what? It has thin walls, right? It has thin walls. That's why it is reduced. Okay. And then see here, the alveoli surface is moist to dissolve respiratory gases for diffusion. The third character is also here. It is moist. Alveoli is highly vascularized. Highly vascularized in the sense is vascularized means high blood supply. Okay, whenever they use the term vascularized, remember it represents the high blood supply. So alveoli are highly vascularized. Enable the maintenance of steep diffusion gradient of respiratory gases. This is allowing a steep diffusion gradient for what? Respiratory gases. So these are like you all have to write this as the characteristic of the respiratory surface of humans. Okay, whenever they ask the characteristic of respiratory surfaces in general, you all have to write the ones we studied earlier. This thing was there. In short, they have given. Where is it? Here. You have to give all these four when they ask about respiratory surface in common. But if they ask about the respiratory surface of the humans, you all have to give what? You all have to give this only. Okay, you all have to give this thing only. Is it clear up to this, or you all have any doubts? Any doubts? Yeah, right. For everyone is clear now. No doubts. No. Okay. Shall we move to the next part as well? Is it okay for you all, or is it like too bulky? Shall we move to the next one? The next section. It's the like inhalation and exhalation process. Shall we move to that as well? Yeah, let's move, no? Because now you all are going to become grade 13. No? So we can move to that as well. We'll finish that. So you all can write one essay. I'll give you an essay topic. So you all can do that inshallah today. And yeah, I'll give the scheme as well, so you can just check with the scheme. So now today we are now what we are going to see is mechanism of ventilation in the lungs. Okay, ventilation is necessary. Okay, ventilation is very important because we have to maintain what we have to have a high oxygen concentration inside the alveoli and low carbon dioxide concentration inside the alveoli. Okay, so ventilation is very important. We require what? We require ventilation. Why do we require ventilation? Because in the alveoli, we have to maintain high concentration of oxygen and low concentration of carbon dioxide. Okay, in the respiratory surface or in the alveoli, we have to gas exchange surface. Okay, not the respiratory surface. It's the gas exchange surface because in gas exchange mainly takes place in alveoli. So in the alveoli, we have to maintain high concentration of oxygen and low concentration of what? Carbon dioxide. Okay. So this ventilation is accomplished by breathing. Okay. This ventilation is maintained by what? It is like accomplished by breathing. So breathing means what? It is the alternating movement of air into and out of the lungs. Moving the air into means what? Inhalation, and out of the body means what? Exhalation. So this process is called as what? Breathing. So breathing is moving of air into and out of the lungs. Okay. Into means inhalation and out to is the exhalation. So, and we have a process called human employ. Okay. Human employ means it's the negative pressure breathing. Okay. Human employ means what? It is the negative pressure breathing. Here what happens is air would be pulled rather than pushed. Okay. Usually air is pushed into the lungs. No, we are pushing the air into the lungs from the external environment. But what happens in human employee is we are pulling the this one. Pushing means what? Pushing is like this, no? Okay, we are just pushing this. Okay, pushing means like this. Okay, we are pushing the this one gases into the what is that? Respiratory tract, okay, into this lungs. But what happens in human employee, they have to pull the gases into this respiratory system, okay, into the lungs. Okay, so a human employee is what? It's a negative pressure breathing. It doesn't go according to the pressure gradients. We'll be studying what is pressure gradient, okay. So this human employee doesn't go according to the pressure gradient. Therefore, it's what? It's a negative pressure breathing method. Why is it considered as a negative pressure breathing? Because air is pulled rather than pushed. We are pulling the air, not pushing the air. Okay, but in normal process, we used to push the air. So we have two main process. One is the inhalation and the other one is what? The exhalation. Okay, we have the inhalation and we have the exhalation. Inhalation and we have exhalation. Okay, we have inhalation and exhalation processes. Let's see what's inhalation. Remember that inhalation is always an active process. And the exhalation is what? It's a passive process. I hope I said you all this thing. Active process means what? Is it using ATP or not using ATP? Unit 4 again. Very good. It's using the, okay, it's using, very good. It's using ATP. Okay, inhalation means what? It's an active process. It is using ATP. Okay, so this inhalation process is an active process and exhalation is a passive process. Remember that. Okay, because in essays we used to miss these small, tiny words. And then what happens is during inhalation, again grade 11, see, the same thing is getting repeated. So what is happening in inhalation? Our ribs will contract. Okay, ribs contract. So ribs will contract. Ribs will contract. And also what happens? Intercostal muscles. Okay. We have the intercostal muscles, the muscles present between the ribs, right? Intercostal muscles. So these intercostal muscles will also contract. And then what happens? The diaphragm is there. Okay, diaphragm is the one, like when we have the lungs like this, the diaphragm is the muscle sheet. Okay, the skeletal muscle sheet present at the bottom of the thoracic cavity is called as what? The diaphragm. Okay, it is a skeletal muscle sheet. So the diaphragm will the diaphragm will also what led to will contract. Okay, so ribs contract, intercostal muscles contract, and then the diaphragm will contract. Okay, diaphragm will contract. So all these three things, ribs, intercostal muscles, and diaphragm will start to contract. Okay, and then what happens? Now if all these things are contracted. Imagine the lungs has become like this. Okay, initially it was like this, no? Now the lungs has become like this. What has happened to the thoracic cavity volume? The thoracic cavity has expanded. Okay, the thoracic cavity, expansion of the thoracic cavity. This is the thoracic cavity. The empty place is the thoracic cavity. This colored one, wait, I'll color and show. Okay, this colored one is the lungs. Now, when the volume of the lungs reduces, the thoracic cavity has expanded. Initially, the thoracic cavity was like this, no? The thoracic cavity has a certain volume, only a very few volume. Now it has a very large volume. So the thoracic cavity expands. And then what happens? It would increase the volume. The volume of the thoracic cavity increases. Now what happens? We had the two layer membranes, now there is visceral pleura and the parietal pleura. These visceral and parietal pleura, which is surrounding the lungs, now will stick together. Both of the visceral and parietal pleura will stick together. But still, even though when they are stick together, due to the surface tension, you all be studying about surface tension like in detail in physics, unit 10, 9. Yeah, unit 10. Okay, so surface tension is present between what? Visceral and parietal pleura. So this will this surface tension is preventing the sticking of this visceral and parietal pleura. Give me a second. You all can see the screen, right? Screen is visible, no? The board is visible, no? Okay, okay, okay. So what happens is this visceral and parietal pleura which are surrounding the lungs are going to stick together due to what? Due to the surface tension. Okay. Due to the surface tension, this visceral and parietal pleura are sticking together. And then the surface tension is mainly due to the fluid which is present. There was a fluid no, in between the visceral and parietal pleura. That is the one which is creating this surface tension. Okay. And then what happens? These two, like imagine you have two like two slides. Okay. You have two slides and in between you have water. What happens? Yeah, imagine like this. You have water in between these two parts. Okay. This is the visceral pleura and this is the parietal pleura. The blue one is the parietal and this is the visceral pleura. And you have fluid over in between these things. So this can slightly move, right? This will allow to slightly move. Okay, these would slide smoothly on top of each other. Okay, when the what is that? When the thoracic cavity expand, what is happening? The visceral and parietal pleura slide smoothly, passing each other. Okay, so hence the volume of the thoracic cavity increases. Now tell me, unit, you are 27. So this thing was there in gaseous low pressure and volume. Are they, what is that, directly proportional or inversely proportional? Pressure and volume. Directly or inversely proportional? Boyle's law, I guess. Boyle's. Very good. They are inversely proportional. So whenever the volume increases, what is happening to the pressure? Pressure decreases. Okay. This is the exact point you all have to remember. So now what has happened to the thoracic cavity volume? Volume of the thoracic cavity increases. And then what happens to the pressure of the thoracic cavity? The pressure of the thoracic cavity decreases. This pressure reduces more than the pressure of the atmosphere. Okay. The atmospheric pressure is there. No? So the pressure of the thoracic cavity reduces than the pressure of the what? What is that? Than the pressure of this atmosphere. Okay. So when the volume of the thoracic cavity increases, the lung volume also decreases. And as a result, what happens? The pressure within the lungs decreases relative to the atmospheric pressure because atmospheric pressure is higher than that. And now I said diffusion is what? Movement of substances from high concentration to low concentration. So now what is happening? We are having a pressure flow. Okay, we are having a pressure flow. What is happening? The outer pressure is higher, right? In the atmosphere, we have what? High pressure. Inside the lungs, we have what? We have the low pressure. Now the gas will flow from atmosphere to the lungs. Okay, from the environment to the lungs, the what is that? The gas will flow. This is what is called as inhalation because it is creating what gradient? It is creating a pressure gradient because pressure gradient means what? The steep diffusion gradient is the difference between the high and the low. No? So since there is a high atmospheric pressure outside and low pressure inside, it is creating a pressure gradient, and then the air will be flow from high pressure in the atmosphere to low pressure in the lungs. This is called as what? Inhalation. Is the process of inhalation clear for you all? Is inhalation process clear? Nice. Okay. First out atmospheric part again, right? This atmospheric, now what has happened? Now the thoracic volume has increased. No, thoracic volume has increased. And then as a result, what has happened? The volume of the lungs will also increase. Okay, when a thoracic cavity volume increase, the volume of the lungs will also increase. So thoracic volume has increased. In the thoracic cavity, volume has increased. As a result, what is happening? The lung volume also increases. Okay, lung volume also increases. Whenever volume increases, we all have to remember pressure drops. Okay, the pressure drops. Initially, the pressure of the lungs was exactly similar to the atmospheric pressure. But now the pressure is going. This is the atmospheric pressure. Like let's think like this. This is the atmospheric pressure. This is the normal level. Now what is happening? The pressure of the lungs is going below the atmospheric pressure. But still, the atmosphere they have the same pressure. No? Now, outside the lungs, we have what? Outside our body, we have the same pressure. Okay, outside our body, we have the same pressure. Here we have the atmospheric pressure. But here we have this P1. Let's keep it as P1. This P1 is less than what? P1 is less than the atmospheric pressure. So what is happening now? The pressure will flow from high pressure to low pressure by creating a pressure gradient. Okay, so now what happens? There is high pressure in the atmosphere. All the air will be flown into the lungs because there is low pressure now. So it has to like balance. That's why the pressure is moving from out to in. Is it clear? What's the doubt you have, Adra? Clear? Okay. Is it clear for others? Okay. So that's what happens for the inhalation process. Okay, that's it about the inhalation. Now let's move for the exhalation. Exhalation is passive or active? Say soon. It is exactly the opposite of inhalation. If you understand inhalation, exhalation is the like easy peasy. Okay, say in inhalation, the ribs contracted, the diaphragm contracted, the intercostal muscles are contracted. So what would happen in the exhalation process? Will they contract again or will they relax? Ah, nice, very good. They have to relax now because it's the opposite. Inhalation and exhalation are opposite now. Now you can write the same point again. Rib muscles relaxes, diaphragm relaxes, intercostal muscles are relaxing. So 3 points are there. Now what happens initially in inhalation when all of these things are contracted, the volume of the thoracic cavity increased, right? Now what would happen to the volume of the thoracic cavity? You all say now. You all only should explain me now. Now what happens? Volume of the thoracic cavity decreases. Very good. The volume of the thoracic cavity will decrease. Then volume of the lung will increase or decrease. Very good. It will also decrease. So the pressure inside the lungs will increase or decrease. Very good. It will also increase. So the pressure inside the lungs will increase more than the atmospheric pressure. As a result, what is happening now? Now the air will move into the lungs or air will move out of the lungs. Very good. The air will move out of the lungs because the internal pressure is higher than the external pressure. No? So air always flow from high pressure to low pressure. Since the air is having high pressure inside the body and a low pressure outside the body, what is happening? Air flows out of the body. So that is called as what? Exhalation. Is exhalation clear now? Clear now for others? What about you all? Is it clear? Others? Like if you all understand inhalation process properly, the exact opposite thing is coming for exhalation thing. Clear no? Everyone? Nice. Clear no? Yeah. We have a small paragraph and after that, okay, we'll do that as well. So we can start unit quickly. See here. The above things are like I explained, okay? That's why I didn't read that again. When a man is at rest, okay? When we are at rest, imagine like we are like sleeping or something. When we are at rest, only the rib muscles and diaphragms will contract, okay? Contraction of the rib muscles and contraction of diaphragm is enough for inhalation. But whenever we are doing like very large metabolic activities, whenever we are running, we are going here, jumping here and there, when we are doing like exercise and stuff, but during exercise mainly, okay? See here, they are given examples now. So during exercise, this contraction of the rib and the diaphragm is not enough to inhale all the atmospheric gas, because during the what active processes during the exercise and all, we require what more and more oxygens, no? So this gas is not enough. So that what we do is we used to contract other muscles also. Okay, we used to contract the muscles in the neck and the muscles in the back and chest. Okay, so these three muscles would also be contracted if we require more energy. Okay, so we require more energy in which process? Being during the high energy demanding processes, no? So that for example exercise, so during exercises and all, what is happening for deep breathing, we call this process as what? Deep breathing. We are using what? Muscles of neck, back and chest. Okay, so those are the three muscles we are using during deep breathing, except the ribs and then diaphragm. So is it clear for you all? Clear? Okay. For others, you all have any doubts? Any doubts? Whatever it is, no doubts. For others, what about you all? Sure, no doubts? Sure, right? No doubt, no? So we'll be sending this thing. What is that? That worksheet for you all. Okay, I'll be sending the worksheet for you all in a while, maybe within in next 10 minutes. Like I have to make a small change in that. I'll send that to it in a while, and y'all can try the questions we did today, like from the parts we did. Okay, y'all can try all those questions, and also I'll send the biocheck tute, so y'all can try that tute as well. And then our short note will be also given. So for your use, you all can use the short note as well. We made that short note for 26 revision only. So if you all want, you all can use that short note as well. And also, I sent that MCQ tute for each system. Have you all tried that? The MCQ tutes for each system, there are like 50 MCQs. Tried? Not yet, no? Okay. So for digestive system and circulatory system, you all can try if you all are done with them. For respiratory system, I'll send that. So you all can try that as well. So let's wind up the sessions. You all don't have any doubts, no? So we'll wind up the session. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I also forgot to say this thing. If you all, we are having the 27 class on Friday and Tuesday from 7 to 9. If you all want to join, like if you all like to join the class, you all can drop me a text, okay? You all know my name number, no? I'll just put on the text. On the chat box, I'll put my number. If you all want, just drop me a message. 076 766 8717. If you all want, just drop me a message with your name and school and which, okay? Well, the class time will be providing recordings, but the class time is from 7 to 9 on Tuesday and Friday. Okay, then let's wind up the session. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khaira for joining.